Sarah Palin endorses Donald Trump. Ta-Nehisi Coates makes the case for reparations against Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders leads Widens in New Hampshire. Former Secretary of Defense Robert Gates says the Republican candidates don't know what they're talking about. And Paul Krugman thinks Bernie Sanders is wrong on health care. This is the Benjamin Dixon Show, Progressive Army. Let's buckle up and do this.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Tuesday, right? Is this Tuesday? Doesn't feel like Tuesday. It feels like Monday, I guess, because yesterday was a holiday, January 19, 2016. Let's jump directly into the news. Former Secretary of Defense Robert Gates. Well, I lied. I can't jump right into the news. I want to jump right into the news, but I can't. I tried to jump right into the news, but I can't. Let me just say that I've read two pieces today from two people that I greatly respect. And I'm not going to say I lost respect for them, Paul Krugman and Ta-Nehisi Coates. I'm just going to say that I no longer care to bite my tongue against people that I admire. And I'm just going to say what I have to say about them. All right. I had to say that first. Now to the news. A lot happening in the news. You know what? I'm going to start with something that is completely unusual. It's good news. Jamie Foxx saved a motorist from a car inferno. Apparently a car crashed right in front of his home into a ditch, flipped, got airborne, exploded into flames. Jamie Foxx heard about it, called 911 as he ran and rescued the driver. The driver survived and is recovering inside of the hospital. This happened last night. So kudos to Jamie Foxx for being willing to jump out there. This is something that you don't hear on a regular basis. We do hear a lot about heroes doing things, but rarely do you hear a movie star or someone who's famous like this actually be the hero in real life. So Jamie Foxx, everyone knows him from the Jamie Foxx Show. They know him from the Oscar winning, right? Best actor for, speaking of Oscar, and Oscar's so white and all that, but he won an Oscar for the Ray Charles story. It was a 2007 Toyota Camry that flipped into a drainage ditch in California, Newbury Park, California. 32-year-old Brett Kyle was driving at a high rate of speed. And then, I want to know how fast this guy was going to hit a ditch and get airborne. It takes a lot of speed actually, a lot of speed. I'm thinking about an accident I saw myself. It doesn't necessarily take a lot of speed, but it just takes the right angle to get airborne. But the report said that he was driving really fast. Jamie Foxx came out and saved his life. Round of applause for Jamie Foxx, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, that's the only good news that I have of the day. That's the most inspiring news I have of the day. Sarah Palin. The great Sarah Palin from the great state of Alaska has come out and endorsed Donald Trump. I did not watch the ceremony, the crowning ceremony. I did read the New York Times article that kind of went at length and gave statements from the Sarah Palin campaign. I'm drinking this wonderful coffee my wife made for me today. Sarah Palin is still a player, apparently. At some point, you would wonder, when does a group of people realize that your venerated hero is actually a bumbling buffoon? Apparently it doesn't with Sarah Palin. Oddly enough, her son, I think his name Trap, whatever her son's name is, he was arrested today as well. So simultaneously, as she was endorsing Donald Trump, her son was arrested, I believe, on assault charges against a woman. But that's not the story. The story is her endorsement of Donald Trump. And allegedly, they believe this is going to give Sarah Palin is going to give Donald Trump the edge that he needs to beat out Ted Cruz in Iowa. Apparently, Sarah Palin still carries a lot of weight with evangelical voters and evangelicals after a day like yesterday where Donald Trump said 2 Corinthians instead of 2 Corinthians. He needs all the help he can get. And what better place to get it from a colleague in the reality TV genre, Sarah Palin, to endorse, and as well as a pseudo leader, pseudo wannabe government official. I am afraid to know what position he's promising her. I guess it can't be more terrifying than John McCain tapping her for vice president. I think the only thing that could be scarier than vice president would actually be Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense. That would be terrifying. But he's giving her the edge. Ted Cruz, just yesterday, Ted Cruz was speaking very highly of her, saying that they're friends and that no matter what she decides, he will always be her friend. Well, I wonder what he's saying today now that she has given him the edge. And I'm going to be honest with you folks. The closer and closer we get to Iowa, the more realistic Donald Trump's nomination, legitimate nomination, not a third party run, not, just a straight out victory. His nomination seems more and more realistic. And I was reading tweets from Bill Kristol where Bill Kristol is a conservative commentator who is on Fox News all the time. He is the establishment conservative. They really are scared shitless that Donald Trump may very well win this thing. And so now they're lamenting, he was publicly lamenting the fact that Donald Trump is actually going to win, or could win rather. And he's trying to Bill Kristol tried to lay this at the feet of Barack Obama, saying that the only way that a Donald Trump was made possible was because of a Barack Obama. Then I have to go all the way back and say, if we're trying to say that this incompetent caricature of a human being named Donald Trump is only made possible by the presidency of Barack Obama, which is a non sequitur, and I'll deal with that in a second, then how do you explain a Sarah Palin being tapped for VP in 2008? What led to Republicans stooping so low that they would get someone who couldn't even tell us what newspaper she read? So there's this desire to separate the establishment now from the monster they created, right? Sarah Palin best represents the monster that they created, which is a combination of ignorance, greater or lesser extent bigotry, and just rabid religiosity. That's who Sarah Palin is. And that's what she represents. And that's what she brings to Donald Trump in this endorsement. It's a powerful thing to be able to get up in a church and be able to speak with a religious conviction. And Sarah Palin does that. And she brings a legion of fans that are going to now support Donald Trump and give him the edge. But if we're blaming Donald Trump on President Obama, which makes no sense, but let's just go with that logic. How do you blame the Republican decision for Sarah Palin, who really has turned out to be the laughing stock of politics for the last 8 years? The running gag, the punchline, the nonstop punchline is Sarah Palin. Just say Sarah Palin and anyone with common sense would start laughing, because Sarah Palin has none. But yet she's venerated, she's lifted up as this great hero of conservatism. I'm sorry, Bill Kristol. It is not President Obama's fault that Donald Trump is leading. It is the fault of the Republican Party. For the last 40 years, you guys have constantly and incessantly pandered to the religious right, as well as used the Southern strategy to throw dog whistles to the bigot contingency. And that is the makeup of Donald Trump's coalition. There's a third part of Donald Trump's coalition that really, they aren't religious zealots. They aren't just imbecile bigots. They're just angry white men. and they're angry at their lot in life, right? They're angry and they feel like the government has cheated them, and they're tired of the Republican establishment. They're tired of the Democratic establishment, and they want Donald Trump because they just love the way he talks and they love the way he takes it to the establishment. Now, they're not mutually exclusive. I'm sure there's some great overlap between those three groups, but that makes up the coalition. You have those people who are finally awakened and said, really, voting for the Republican Party has done nothing for us economically. They go with Donald Trump from the Republican side. And then you have those religious zealots who really didn't care that he did not know 2 Corinthians from 2 Corinthians. You know, they just love the fact that he's, I don't know, that he says the Bible is his second favorite book or his first favorite book. And then you have that religious, you have that bigoted crowd that really enjoys his thinly veiled racism wrapped in political correctness. That is everything that I just described. The Southern strategy crowd, the religious zealot crowd, and the angry white man crowd, angry white woman crowd, that group. And then you have some strays, forgive me, I'll call them strays, the black conservatives who like Donald Trump. I call them strays, please, no one else call them strays. Let me get in trouble with that, not you. But the Republican Party has been pandering to this group for 40 years plus, really since Nixon's Southern strategy. And now you have a guy who has enough bravado to just crush your spineless, weak Jeb Bush, who was the expected, he was a heir apparent, right? It was a given that it was going to be another Clinton Bush year. And here comes Donald Trump to just, with his ego and his bravado, crush Jeb Bush. He's no longer in contention. And so that left the field wide open for who is the greatest religious zealot, who is the greatest gun nut, who's going to mobilize the bigot crowd, and who's going to mobilize the angry white men enough. Enter Donald Trump. You can't cry now that your creation has come back to haunt you. And now your creation has gone and picked up your other creation. Like, you guys created Donald Trump politically. You created Sarah Palin politically. And now they've made this marriage in Republican hell. And he very well may run away with all the way through Super Tuesday and just destroy the Republican establishment. And I don't feel bad about it at all. The only thing I think about it when I think about it is the fact that we need a candidate on the left that will destroy him to ensure that that type of ideology never gets into power. All right, moving on. Let's go straight to Bernie Sanders' lead in New Hampshire. And I'm going to show an image. Actually, I guess I have to show you. I guess I have to show you my my OneNote. Let's see if I can zoom in here. So anyway, before I give you the image, the CNN WMUR poll between January 13th and January 18th has Bernie Sanders up by 27 points in New Hampshire. This is a bit of an outlier compared to the other polls, but that's the high. Then you have the ARG poll showing Bernie Sanders up by 6 points. You have the Monmouth poll that shows Bernie Sanders up by 14 points. You have the Fox News poll showing Bernie Sanders in New Hampshire up by 13 points. It's only the PPP poll, which is traditionally a Democratic poll, Democratic establishment poll, that has Hillary Clinton up by 3 points. In 4 of the 5 polls that just came out for this week. Well, actually, I'm sorry, 3 came out this week, and 3 came out in the previous weeks. But in each of these polls, Bernie Sanders is up by an average of 11.4 points in New Hampshire. I'm taking a dramatic pause, apparently, wherever I hear the applause in my head. My clap track is busted, and I just have not had time to repair it. But this is a good place to applaud. If you're a fan of fair democracy, you should applaud, because this means that Hillary Clinton is not going to win if she wins with a coronation. If she wins, it's going to be by the skin of her teeth, especially in states like New Hampshire. Like she's not going to. I don't see how she's going to win at this point. Now, Nate Silver of 538 called New Hampshire and Iowa for Hillary Clinton. I don't know if he did that before these polls came out, but I just don't see. I personally don't see Hillary Clinton. What are we, 2 weeks away? Actually, we're 2 weeks away from Iowa. So we have a few weeks before we get to New Hampshire. But this is a commanding lead. The highest average, the highest percentage that he's up is 27 points. He's turned this thing around. He was down tremendously over the summer, even in New Hampshire. Everyone expected this to be a runaway freight train for Hillary Clinton, and that's proven not to be the case. And what I believe is what Bernie Sanders has said, is that when people get to know his campaign, people really believe that there is an option. There are many people who are apathetically going with Hillary Clinton because they just feel like she's inevitable. And the more that they give voice to who Bernie Sanders is and what he stands for, the more he closes the gap. Right. Look, actually, let me click on this link. I have the link around here somewhere, and I want to show you actually the trend. The trend is more important than this individual week. There it is. I have the poll here. Real Clear Politics poll. I'm going to show on YouTube. Everyone else, I'll just describe it to you. The Real Clear Politics poll shows you Hillary Clinton is in purple, Bernie Sanders is in brown. Shows you back in August, Hillary Clinton had a 16.7% lead over Bernie Sanders. The gap closed, then the gap widened. With Bernie Sanders on top, it closed a little bit more, but they've trended up as other candidates have dropped out, and now they are parting ways. In January 2016, Bernie Sanders, 51.2, Hillary Clinton, 39.8, and this is in the average with an average spread of 11.4 points. Listen, the trend is more important than anything else. The trend represents momentum. The momentum is on the side of Bernie Sanders. Here. So I think if a person, I know I'm asking too much. What I'm getting ready to say is asking too much. If a person really was genuinely in favor of a robust primary, regardless of their candidate, then they should be excited about this, because this says that nothing is inevitable. No one is going to get a coronation. This is not going to be an heir apparent handing over to Hillary Clinton. This is going to be a fight. And that's what primaries should be. Nothing less than that. But, and there's a big but when you have this type of lead and you have this type of momentum and you have this type of spread building, that's when you get the big guns poured out on you. The big guns have been brought out in two categories. One, on the progressive side, Paul Krugman penned an op-ed. I believe he penned two back-to-back, Monday and Tuesday, but I'm referring to the one he penned yesterday. An op-ed in the New York Times, essentially saying that Bernie Sanders is wrong on healthcare. And as I began to read it, I powered read it through on the train, just read the highlights and tried to see his argument, right? I want to understand, what is your argument? You are making a bold position against something that is a cornerstone of progressivism, Paul Krugman, right? And Paul Krugman has been somewhat of the Nobel laureate of progressivism. And so I wanted to get the essence of his argument. And the essence of his argument boils down to the same thing Hillary Clinton says, the same thing Hillary Clinton has convinced her supporters of, that this progressive idea is just too difficult and too politically polarizing for us to accomplish. Therefore, we should not try to get Medicare for all. We should not try to get a single payer system. We should just tweak on what we already have. To me, that is a pitiful excuse of leadership from Hillary Clinton. To me, that is pathetic pandering from an intellectual like Paul Krugman, who I have the utmost respect for, but to say that we are in a world where it is so difficult that we should not even try suggests that you want to start our entire conversation from a place that conservatives are not going to accept in the first place, which is a moderate center. You want to start the conversation there and have them pull us further to the right. To be fair, you perhaps don't want that, but you're not admitting to the fact that that's going to be the result of your starting position being down the center. Obamacare is a center right, just right of center, moderate piece of legislation that still leaves 29 million people uninsured. And if we begin electing, if the justification of the people we elect is that they are not inspired enough to try to fight the battles that we as progressives believe should be fought because they are right and they are just and they are fair and they are equitable, if we begin electing politicians because they are not inspired enough to try the difficult thing, then we are already damned to failure. Which is why, as I read this article, I could not believe that Paul Krugman, Nobel laureate, did not give me an intellectual masterpiece of reasoning to help me to understand why Bernie Sanders would be wrong on healthcare. He did not do that. All he said was, it's too hard and politically impossible. Therefore, let's go for the person who doesn't even want to try. Now, I think anybody, I need every person who ever swears that they love Hillary Clinton to actually pause and think about what we're saying here. We are saying that we don't want a leader, a president who aspires to do and fight the fights that need to be fought because they need to be fought and because they should be fought, even if we die trying. We want somebody who's going to do the politically easy thing. I'm not saying that Hillary Clinton fans, you should stop supporting her. What I'm saying is you should challenge your own candidate and help her to realize that we're not hiring you to do the easy thing. We're hiring you to do some of the most difficult things in this nation that we have not done in hundreds of years. We're not hiring you to be the sipping on tea, sitting underneath the shade tree. Let's just do whatever everyone can get along trying to do. Let's be afraid of the pushback that we would get from Republicans. Let's just go with some triangulation and not even worry about what we really have believed for hundreds of years, which is a true progressive idea. All of the progress. If she's going to go easy on this one, if she's going to take the easy route on this, if she's going to hire all of her hitmen, right? Love Krugman, but in this piece, he's just regurgitating her talking points. Therefore, he is her hitman. If she's going to go and expend all of this energy just to convince us that we should not try, what kind of leader would she be on other progressive issues? So I think personally, they knew these polls were coming out and they opened up the big guns, the progressive big gun on economic issues. Paul Krugman, New York Times, everybody reads them. Everybody respects them. I read them. I respect them. I read them every single Monday. You know, I still respect him, even though this piece is intellectually inept in his catalog of great thought. This piece was depressingly inspirationless. I'm just not with somebody telling me that's going to be too hard. Don't try. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, Ben, it's Bryce. What's going on?
Nothing much, Bryce. What's happening with you?
Yeah, I was listening to you earlier. I do agree with a lot that you're saying. And it's funny how they're saying Obama created whole Trump thing, and it's just hilarious to me. It's like, no, it's called racism, bigotry. You know, the madness that caused it is not Obama's fault. Now, I understand about, you can say policies, certain things that have happened. I understand that, but a lot of times it's not about policy. Especially Fox News, it's not about policy. It's the color of her skin. It just blows my mind. It's like, we're not talking policy here. It just like throws me off. But I do agree with a lot that you said, and obviously that piece that you read is just, I don't know, it just feels like everyone they're trying to find a way to pander to Hillary. They're trying to find a way for Hillary to win. And, you know, I still believe Bernie is going to win. I still have confidence that it will happen. But obviously they're trying to find a way for it not to happen. And Sarah Palin is just, I don't know words.
I was gonna say don't blow a gasket over Sarah Palin. She's not worth it. Save that energy. But good. Thank you for bringing me back. I did want to say more about that President Obama causing Donald Trump thing. So thanks for reminding me. I'll mention some more of that at the end.
Thank you.
Thanks.
No problem.
Of course, guys, you can join the conversation 857-600-0518. Tweet me at the BPD show. Let me take my phone off of Do Not Disturb so I can actually get those messages. And you can join the chat room. I'm not over in the chat room yet. I'll be in the chat room in about 5 more minutes. We'll get over there. That's what I feel about this Paul Krugman piece. Now, so they brought out the big guns against Bernie Sanders in the form of the white progressive economic guru, Paul Krugman, right? I wonder what Robert Reich would say. I wonder if they've already co-opted him. I'm sorry, not co-opted, but I wonder if he's put out a piece against Bernie Sanders. But so now they have Paul Krugman. You don't get bigger than that, you know, in terms of intellectual economic thought, right? So we should just buy what Paul Krugman. This is Paul. Excuse me. This is Paul Krugman. But when an argument is intellectually inept, I don't care if you are Adam freaking Smith, Wealth of Nations. If an argument is weak, it is weak. And Paul Krugman's argument in that article in the New York Times, love him, respect him. I'm going to read his article on Monday. But that argument was weak and not worthy of his intellect. So too is the argument from Ta-Nehisi Coates. I wonder if I've started. So too is the argument from Ta-Nehisi Coates, right? So Ta-Nehisi Coates picks up on this argument from Paul Krugman. He starts off his article in The Atlantic talking about why is Bernie Sanders against reparations, right? So flag on the play already. You know, it is one of the preeminent thinkers of the modern Black intellectual intelligentsia, right? It's Ta-Nehisi Coates. Everybody listens to him. He's the man, right? He's like the he's like the young Cornel West, but with more publications in the newspaper, in the media, right? Not academic, but this is Ta-Nehisi Coates. So everybody's going to listen to him. Everyone Black is going to listen to him. So what do you mean Bernie Sanders isn't supporting reparations? How dare he? Bernie Sanders doesn't want the Black vote. And so Ta-Nehisi Coates picks up right after after Paul Krugman, saying that Paul Krugman lays out the case of how difficult healthcare, single-payer system, Medicare for all, how difficult that will be. But yet Bernie Sanders is bold enough to try. Here, Bernie Sanders. You're bold enough to try, even though Krugman said it's going to be impossible. It's going to be damn near political suicide. But Bernie Sanders doesn't care. He's going to do it. But Bernie Sanders says about reparations, it's going to be too politically divisive, pretty much impossible. Bernie Sanders essentially said the same thing about reparations that Paul Krugman has said about Medicare for all. So instantly, I'm like, damn, this is a hell of an argument because I can't disagree with this. Matter of fact, my first instinct was, damn, Bernie Sanders, I actually started picking up on this. I'm like, if you can be bold enough to go for this, why can't you be bold enough to go for that? Brilliant, right? Everybody start tweeting me. All of these Hillary supporters start tweeting me. See, Ben, this is why you should support Bernie Sanders. This is why. And then all of a sudden it clicked. It took about 30 seconds to click, right? But there's like a lot of stuff that goes on in my brain in 30 seconds. And it clicked so quickly and made me really upset because I am sick and tired of people making Bernie. No. Clarify, not people. I am sick and tired of the Black community making Bernie Sanders jump through Black hoops that they are not making Hillary Clinton jump through. Period. Because in this article, and I scrolled through it twice, somebody said that there was a link where he referenced the fact that Hillary Clinton doesn't support it. I was reading it on the subway. It probably got past me, but still, it was so focused on Bernie Sanders not being willing to go after reparations that it did not dive into the reality that there is not a single presidential candidate today or in the past 56, name me a presidential candidate in the history of America that supported reparations after it was initially proposed. So to me, it became automatically disingenuous and became a hit piece. It became a powder puff piece to support Hillary Clinton because you're trying to make Bernie Sanders go through hoops that you would not dare ask Hillary Clinton about. Who has asked Hillary Clinton about reparations and wrote an intellectual thought piece behind the pen of someone with such political influence in the Black community? Nobody. Likewise, nobody has challenged Hillary Clinton with Black Lives Matter to the extent that they challenged Bernie Sanders. And I'll tell you what pisses me off about it in 1 second. But let's just be clear. Bernie Sanders, Netroots Nation, Seattle, everywhere you turn, Bernie Sanders is being asked questions about Black Lives Matter. He has to answer about it every time. Now he has taken it he's internalized it. He has turned it into a platform, and now he's talking about it. He's talking about, say her name. He's calling out Sandra Bland, and he's not only calling out using the names as props, but he is also, well, not using the name as props, but you know what I mean. He's using their names, but he's also bringing policies. And out of DeRay McKesson's 10-point plan for Campaign Zero, he scores the highest marks. Where is Hillary Clinton in the pushback from Black Lives Matter? Who's asking Hillary Clinton about reparations? Who's writing all of these great thought pieces? Who's saying Hillary? Why is everyone looking at this old white man? Because you can, anyway, and saying Bernie Sanders, who is the only candidate with the economic platform that is going to do anything about the disparate poverty, the state of the economic condition of poor people in America. He's the only one with the economic plan to even address it or to even start the conversation about it. Yet Bernie Sanders is somehow magically the white supremacist progressive. Get the hell out of here with that, man. That's complete, utter BS, completely, from top to bottom. I don't care how you cut it, because if you cannot call yourself, you can call yourself whatever the hell you want to call yourself. But to me, you're not worth your weight if you are not challenging Hillary Clinton the same, and Martin O'Malley the same way. Forget about Republicans. Let's look internally to people who think that there are allies. If you are making Bernie Sanders jump through these white supremacists destroying hoops and not requiring the same exact standard of Hillary Clinton, then you are both disingenuous and intellectually dishonest. Because that piece from Ta-Nehisi Coates, as much as his argument was apt, it was a good argument. You can't argue with this argument. It's sound. If Bernie Sanders is going to be bold on Medicare for all, then why is he so quick to dismiss reparations? It's sound, but it's disingenuous when you don't apply that to everyone else. And when you say stuff like, I wish I had it in front of me, when he said, why should Black people, this is from his article, why should Black people support any candidate who doesn't understand this? But he doesn't say, why should Black people support Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton or Martin O'Malley when none of them understand this? He leaves it an open-ended question applied only to Bernie Sanders. So it's a beautiful piece of rhetorical jujitsu to villainize the position of Bernie Sanders while completely absolving Hillary Clinton of any responsibility for the same exact position that she holds as Bernie Sanders. It's too politically impossible to get done. So it's been a bad afternoon for me. 2 for 2. Paul Krugman and Ta-Nehisi Coates came out with these vapid, ridiculously weak arguments. One, and then the other was just intellectually dishonest in the sense that he leaves the focal point on the one person who's going to actually enact policies to reverse some of the economic paradigm that could have been fixed by reparations, but will not be fixed by reparations because there's not a single president who supports reparations. But because Bernie Sanders doesn't support reparations, let's forget about his entire economic revolution, notwithstanding the fact that that economic revolution will undo some of the burden and some of the damage that could have been fixed by reparations. It's been that kind of Tuesday. It's been that kind of Tuesday. That shit pissed me off. It pisses me off because I hate to see how I hate to see exactly what I saw at, I believe it was at Clark in Atlanta, where Black Lives Matter, a small contingency of Black Lives Matter came to protest Hillary Clinton. And then all of a sudden you had all of these Black political elite just boom, boom, block it, boom, you know, get out the way, boom, sit down. You know, John Lewis came down and tried to pat them on the back and sit them down. Kasim Reed from Atlanta tried to come down. The mayor of Atlanta tried to come down and make them sit down. And everyone was protecting Hillary Clinton from the valid criticisms, such that if you have any critique of Bernie Sanders, it is that much more magnified on Hillary Clinton. Let's talk about economic policies that are detrimental to the Black community. If you have a critique of Bernie Sanders and you think that it is detrimental economically to the Black community, then how the bloody hell could you ever support Hillary Clinton, whose policies are worse for the Black community? But all of a sudden, you have the Black political class, who I call the Black Democratic establishment, all of them jumping in, guarding and defending Hillary Clinton against criticism, writing all of these pieces about Bernie Sanders' race problem and his white supremacist problem, as though Hillary Clinton was born a poor Black man in the South in the 60s. Oh, woe is me, master. If Bernie Sanders benefits from white privilege, how much more does Hillary Clinton's ass in New York with all the money making $250,000, $600,000 for a speech? The hell out of here with that foolishness, man. I'm sorry. If nothing else, to thine own self be true. Be true to your own arguments. I would have challenged Bernie Sanders myself if I ever had the opportunity, right? Just a show with like 70 people watching right now. I would have challenged Bernie Sanders myself to answer the question that Ta-Nehisi Coates presented. Why are you so bold on Medicare for all, but completely refuse to even entertain the question on reparations? That would have been a great question to ask him. However, I refuse to put Bernie Sanders through one more Negro hoop. Please, my white listeners, please don't repeat that. Black folks, feel free to run with it. My white listeners, don't say Negro hoops. I refuse to put Bernie Sanders through one more Negro hoop that Hillary Clinton is not being put through herself. So as far as I'm concerned, Bernie Sanders, you good with the Black community and me. You good. You've answered Black Lives Matter. You've answered Seattle. You answered the question of Sandra Bland. You had the strongest answer on the other night. Anytime a police killing is involved, the Department of Justice should automatically trigger an investigation. Bernie Sanders, you don't owe not one damn more explanation to the Black community if Hillary Clinton has not answered everything else that you've already answered. Period. End of discussion, conversation over. And all of you so-called activists, all of you so-called thinkers, come see me and debate with me about it, because not one of you have presented an argument that makes me change my mind and realize or think anything other than you are. This would have been a great closing, but I'm not going to say it. You know who you are. Caller, maybe you can help me stop being so pissed off here. Tell me you got some good news. What's on your mind? How's your day going?
First of all, I'm not going to help you. I'm actually support you. My name is Eric.
Eric, what's happening,
I'm the
man?
one that right. Then, first of all, I'm from Philly. You embody. First of all, you're honorary Philadelphian to me.
Appreciate that, brother.
I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do something real quick for 5 seconds.
All right.
Remember the most famous speech that Barack Obama did? That was in Philadelphia, right?
Yeah. On the Jeremiah Wright issue. Yeah.
Yeah, we pushed him to the left.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was getting beat up on there's only one black station in the city of Philadelphia. We pushed him. We beat Barack Obama. The way you're doing now, we pushed the Progressive Army.
Right.
The late, great Reggie Bryan was one of the catalysts for that. I say that to say that Bernie Sanders, because when you said something about Twitter, I lost, I'm not a big guy, as far as on Twitter, but I lost about 50 followers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thought there was pretty good people. And I would call their names out, but I don't want to make them famous, and this is your show. But I would call their names out, believe me. There's one woman who calls herself angry. That's all I'm going to say. She went in on me. She said that because she hates Bernie. And it's all right. Listen, it's all right. Here's the thing what I said to her. I said, they go so far against Bernie Sanders that when you speak about the issues, just strictly issues, it makes it look like you're, in their mind, sellout. So I refuse it today. So listen, I'm 44. I'll be 45 next year. Ain't nobody calling me no sellout. Exactly. You know what I mean? Listen, I can't type that fast, 40 characters on Twitter. That's why I tell people a lot of times, just give me, because I had an argument with them, and I said, give me a little time, then let me come back with my argument. Here's the thing, what I want to say about Bernie Sanders. The only thing I don't like about him, and I absolutely despise, and I wish he'd take what I just said on your commentary on the video you put up before. I said, Trump, one thing I want out of Bernie Sanders is to take the Trump, go in. Martin O'Malley did that. Bernie Sanders keeps saying, one thing I'd say about Secretary Clinton, and remember that the apology and all like that? Yeah. And all that. See, me and you, we're all right with that. But to the layman, to the uninformed voters, that looks like Bernie Sanders is wrong.
Yeah, that too.
Weakness. And I hate that about him on a debate stage. Now, me and you can critique and say, well, Bernie Sanders wasn't here. But then I look at it from the layman, and I was like, you know what? I don't know if Bernie Sanders won. And let's be honest, Bernie Sanders' really biggest problem is the African-American vote. Absolutely. And that means that if he had the African-American vote, this will be over.
It'll be over.
So I'm not trying to be a Bernie. You know what? Bernie Sanders sent me something in the email, and I never sent it out. And I said, I'm going to send some money in. And I said, you know what? It's not about, I never liked the Hillary because I go back with the Clintons. So I'm assuming that you're under 30. I go back with the Clintons. I remember what they really was. Yeah. So I don't know. So it's not even, you don't have to sell me on that like Hillary. You really don't. Right. I mean, I would be to the left of you. You'll be like, hey, well, yo, Eric, wait, man.
Slow down, man.
So my point is that I think that Malcolm X once said that we're politically immature. I don't talk about black folks. And that is not that white folks isn't, but they can afford to be politically immature. We can't. So I think that's what the problem is, because how the hell did Bernie Sanders, like you said, go through black loops? And I used to say blacker than thou. You got to sit back, and he got it. Really come up there with a dashiki. He can't do that. He's not that. He's not capable. Listen, someone mocked me. They said, look at Bernie Sanders. You look like the guy from the movie with Back to the Future.
Doc
And
Brown.
that's what and I was saying to him, I said, okay, fine, he doesn't have the look.
Right.
But I said, this is what our problem is. I said, and this is what you said. You said, but Elizabeth Warren, I was very disappointed that she didn't run, and I'm very disappointed. I think it was you. You said that she did something, and I didn't check it. And so
yeah, she backed up on her tweet. Yeah. But listen,
that disappoints me.
It does. But you said a mouthful. I like what you said. Just the jumping through these hoops, man. He's and I think I know who you're talking about. Let me play something real quick, and you just nod your head if you recognize the voice. Hang on a second. Hang on. Listen to this.
Go ahead.
Dixon. He's obviously he's a radio show host.
You recognize? So those are some of the people. Those are some of the people who I'm talking about. Hey, man, thanks for the call, man. I'm going to expound on that a little bit.
Ben, listen, you're Progressive Army.
Yes, sir.
Like I said, I'm always on your thing. You are a good man, and see, this is what I want. I love to see this because we have to have a lot of more nuance in there. What you're saying, don't worry, you're not alone. But somebody, I'm gonna look at your timeline. Somebody comes after you, I'm gonna come after them.
Hey, I appreciate that, man. That's love, man. I appreciate it. Right, take it in. Take care. Right. But yeah, that's one thing. One thing I hate more than anything else. This is what I was gonna start off tonight with, because this is what I was thinking about when I was chilling out this afternoon. Was like, what I hate more than anything else are the people who exist on that intersection of intelligence and apathy. Stay with me. Don't change the channel yet. It really makes sense. People who exist on that, and they have this incredible intellect, but they exist not only on that place of intellect, but they also exist in a place of apathy because they're so smart that they don't do nothing. And then they're so smart that they encourage other people don't do nothing. I know I'm using the double negative, but just bear with me. But I absolutely hate those people who craft out these positions that are intellectually astute, but really are a dead end because they don't encourage anyone into action. Please tell me, pray tell, what good is your intellect if it's not affecting change? If the results of your intellect is apathy and you sit down and do nothing, and then you therefore encourage other people to do nothing and make it seem like the intelligent and the cool thing to do is do nothing, don't endorse anybody, don't support any candidate, write your own name in as president, then you're worthless to society other than running your mouth. That's why I went ahead and said, you know what? Let me stop playing around. Let me stop fiddling my thumbs. I endorse Bernie Sanders. I've been supporting him all summer long. Why wouldn't I just go out there and be bold and say, feel the burn? That's what I'm a part of. Because you know why? Because, it's intellectually, the big shindig to be above the political fray and say, I'm not going to endorse anybody, or I don't like Bernie Sanders. I don't like Hillary Clinton. They're both sufferers of white supremacy. Then who the hell are you going to vote for? And who the hell are you going to tell your supporters to vote for? Nobody? Then you're going to hand it over to somebody that you have no influence in shaping, one. And then two, you're very likely going to sway the vote because you have audiences large enough to discourage participation, such that a precinct can be lost. And we've seen in 2000, one precinct can turn the tide. So now you are not only allowing somebody to run and win without you having any impact, but you're also opening the door to people who are truly white supremacists. And if they're not straight, if Donald Trump is not a straight white supremacist, he clearly mobilizes white supremacist groups from their own mouths. So to all these people who exist on this intersection of intelligence, you're very smart. I give it to you. You're smart. Would love to debate you guys. But you also intersect, you land on that intersection of apathy. You are worthless. You're smart, and it's all for naught. It's all to hear yourself talk. And I feel like that's what's being done with Bernie Sanders, because it's a little more malicious than that, but that's a part of it, right? They can't bring themselves to support Bernie Sanders, because that would mean they have to break off their facade of, I'm such a intellectual that I would never endorse any of these neoliberal, prone, capitalistic, neoconservative I just would never do it. That's how some of them talk. The rest of them be like, I ain't endorsing. No, God, I just did some. Well, hell, that's my people. I can do it anyway, right? I can get away with it. You don't. Don't do what I do. Just do what I say. I just had 30 conversations in my head. But what I'm saying is the folks that really think that it is somehow intellectually astute to not pick a side and push an agenda and push something that's going to change the narrative of the nation, push something that's actually going to help change the course of the nation, and they would rather sit back and just criticize Bernie Sanders. They would just sit back and rather criticize Bernie Sanders, but say nothing about Hillary Clinton. When there's no criticism of Bernie Sanders that is not magnitudes of order worse with Hillary Clinton, those people are kind of useless to me. And they're not worth their following. But I'm late to the party, so they have their followings. What the hell? What can you do? They've got their million followers. 202, I believe it's Solomon, DC. What's up, man?
Hey, Ben, that's so much. And I'm so happy this conversation is happening. I came in a few minutes late and was afraid I missed stuff, but I just got so much. And my main thoughts are on, I saw the video that this whole reparations thing came from before the backlash. And so I kind of used what my initial thoughts were from it to convey the opinions I saw after seeing it circulate through Twitter, the article about what he said.
Right.
And it was a fusion discussion.
Right.
After the forum that they just released, where it was mainly about how to get youth back into the labor movement.
Right.
And it was kind of an off-topic question, but going in between halfway in the conversation, would he talk about reparations? And he said no, because he doesn't think they're divisive, and that, as Zaid Jilani, who works at The Intercept, pointed out, Bernie is very select with his progressive policies, in that he talks about how all of his policies poll in the majority. Universal health care polls in the majority of most Americans. Common sense gun control polls in the majority of most Americans. And he says, his point being, with all those policies that the majority of Americans push for, then what we need to do is get Congress to start representing the majority of Americans' opinion, and then through fighting against corruption and money in politics, if we get that done, then we can start pushing these policies through. But reparations only has a 15% approval rating with the American people. So trying to get that through would be incredibly tough. And he talked about how the revolution he wants to happen through urban and rural poverty, and bringing family wealth back to a normal level, is trying to get the goal of reparations through policies that the majority of Americans already see as things they would support.
Right.
And then it just continued on into the history of the labor movement and his idol, Eugene Debs. And I thought it was a very interesting video. I posted it on the blog and moved on. And
it has
reparation
substance.
Part.
It has substance. It had context. And if you take it out of context, then you could run off with this entire thought piece saying he doesn't support. Right. I got you. Go ahead.
I was like so fast. This thought piece about just this one thing. It was like he doesn't like the direct reparation idea, and then like black academics coming out of nowhere. And then within hours, I just watched on CNN on I think our 6 p.m. news show, Brian Fallon, the director of Hillary Clinton's campaign, using that. He said, well, Bernie doesn't represent reparations. What kind of, they were using it. It happened that
hold on. When was this? Was this tonight?
Yeah, on CNN.
Okay,
tonight.
so Brian, what's his name again?
Brian Fallon.
Brian Fallon. I'm horrible with names. Brian Fallon. And what position does he have with Hillary Clinton?
I believe he's the either media director or campaign director.
So high up. Let's just say he's high up in Hillary Clinton's campaign.
He's high up. He's one of the highest up people in the campaign.
Actually had the unmitigated gall to get on CNN and point out the fact that Bernie Sanders does not support reparations, when he good and damn well knows Hillary Clinton would never consider, in a cold day in hell, passing a piece of legislation or presenting a piece of legislation for reparations. This is the disingenuous bullshit that I'm talking about, man. This is Solomon. Man, I appreciate the call. I appreciate the call. I'm
no
just
problem. I hear your anger. And
Yeah,
it was
let me-
no pushback from CNN, by the way. It
right.
was,
Oh, thanks,
it was
man.
amazing
You're gonna
news.
compound it more. Now I'm gonna okay. Thanks, Solomon. I'll talk to you next time, man. This is the crap that pisses me off. So now Hillary Clinton's campaign wants to run out, and I haven't seen the clip. So I know Solomon. I know Solomon well. I take his word for it, right? If he says it, there's very few times. I don't think he's ever sent me something that's not true. So I'm going to run with this. And if it's wrong, Solomon, I'll never listen to you again, right? This dude, Brian, whatever, from Hillary Clinton's campaign, actually is making an argument on national television about Bernie Sanders. So is Hillary Clinton sitting on a reparations proposal that we don't know about? This is what I'm talking about. Simultaneously, the black intelligentsia and the black political elite, they're simultaneously putting Bernie Sanders through the ringer of black power and black pride and tearing down white supremacy and Black Lives Matter, while simultaneously blocking Hillary Clinton from answering a single question on the issue. I'm sorry. I wouldn't do it for Bernie Sanders any more than I would do it for Elizabeth Warren. I wouldn't even do it for myself. If you cannot be true to your argument, how do you, I don't know. Maybe I have, maybe I just have too many standards. I could not, with a straight face, go on television and make an argument for something against someone that I knew my candidate was not doing themselves. I couldn't. The best solution in that place is just to be quiet. Don't say nothing. Lay low, and maybe they won't notice us. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about something else. The point is, I just read a comment in YouTube that really, thank you for reminding me. It's all to distract people from hearing Bernie Sanders. It is all about driving a wedge between the black vote and Bernie Sanders, because people know if the black community ever heard Bernie Sanders's economic framework, just his disposition, just the conversations that he fosters, just the things that the national narrative that would take place with the Bernie Sanders in office, whether or not he accomplished 100% or even 50% of it, the national conversation, if Bernie Sanders was in office, would always be about income inequality and how do we fix it. Criminal justice reform and how do we fix the problem of police brutality. And it just drives me batshit crazy to see people so disingenuous with their arguments, man. People who are smart, people who I respect, people who I feel are intellectual and rhetorical ninjas, laid on the altar of political expediency and endorsements, and not willing to challenge their own candidate. Like, I am willing to ask Bernie Sanders, why are you so bold on this, but not reparations, right? It's a valid question, but I'm not going to bother that man one bit until it's kind of like the conversation. Well, let me finish the last thought. I won't bother him one bit until Hillary Clinton answers everything that he has answered. This is just like the conversation about why I say Hillary Clinton should never apologize until conservatives apologize first, right? It's because we cannot make a requirement of one person or a certain group of people that we do not make a requirement for everyone. If we are going to hold Democrats to intellectual honesty, then we must hold Republicans to intellectual honesty. And so if we're going to criticize from a conservative position, Democrats not being intellectually honest, let me start that sentence again. We can never criticize from a Republican perspective, Democrats being intellectually dishonest or just straight out lying, when we don't hold Republicans to the same standard for every damn lie that they promulgate. Likewise, I refuse to make Bernie Sanders beholden to black demands when we are not making those same demands on Hillary Clinton. That's a tweetable quote. rewind it and tweet it somebody. I refuse to make Bernie Sanders beholden to black demands when we have not made those same demands of Hillary Clinton. I want to move on, but let me take this caller. 718, you're live on the air.
How you doing, Ben? This is Umar from Brooklyn.
Umar, Brooklyn in the house. What's happening, man?
You know, I can't blame you for this point of view because this is the very thing that happened. I go back to the midterms. When every Democrat, because that's what really made Hillary mention Barack Obama so much funniest of all, ran from Barack Obama. When
exactly
the better, the more expedient thing to do is to celebrate the man's accomplishments. Now that there's a fight for the seat because he's obviously leaving, now all of a sudden
everybody loves him.
You know? And and I'm like, I hate to say this, but maybe in some ways we could even, I'm shuddering, thank Trump because he's scaring a lot of people. But the problem is that while he's scaring a lot of people, they're playing these political games that people are looking at. And they're saying, you know what you could end up doing here? Because if I got this correct, the polls are showing that Hillary might not have much of a chance against this guy.
Right.
Whereas the polls are equally showing Bernie will. And you're going to put us in another position just like the midterm elections where it's going to be Trump because Hillary's a weak candidate. Now, I get the whole women, I get that part. I'm not, when people say you only vote, your women are only voting for her because she's women and you black, I'm sorry, I go, so what? Because I think I'm on this point in my life where the one thing progressives have got to do is start learning that they can put their middle finger up and tell these people exactly what you think about them. Being progressive has got to stop meaning, we can't play their games. Doesn't mean we have to be nice about it. Why? Why are we being nice to these people? Right. They are never nice to us. I have this argument all the time when I was with the group during the holiday season doing the feeding thing. And we're tired. We're sitting around. And you know what progressives do when they sit around? They start
talking politics. Yep.
Yeah. So my argument then was, I'm not saying you have to play the game, but I'm saying we are not aggressive. And we are in a country that responds to aggressive. Because if you go back to the first Barack Obama campaign, it was, once they decided on him, it was very aggressive. And, of course, you had the Bush years, but still there was aggressiveness that's never followed up by the senators, the midterm people, that's never followed up. And we need to get into the aggressive because I thought you were talking about voter apathy. I now understand you were talking about these intellectuals who get on these shows or pundits and everything like that and espouse this. I hate to say it, but I feel this way. What is this gentleman's name? He was just on Bill Maher. The guy who uses $16 words and really, I don't know why people, because I listen to him like, I know what these words mean. You're not saying anything. You tout yourself as an activist, but I keep telling people, go back to his record. What did he activate? What did he ever do except get upon and tell every black who he feels is intellectually inferior that without us intellectuals, he wouldn't have done anything. What is this guy's name? He's everywhere with the long beard and the
Johnson. Johnson. Are you talking about Umar Johnson?
No. This guy was on Bill Maher. He was just on Bill Maher. He's always on Bill Maher, or he's like the pundit they always pull up. I just can't remember I don't know why I can't remember his name.
I can see his face, but I can't think of his name.
He's an academic.
Dude, I can't think of his name.
I'm at an age where all these people's names just mulch. Yeah. But like I said, and I'm like, I'm kind of pissed at the black intelligentsia because in my opinion, especially if you understand history, these idiots have been playing these games for a long time. Like in your chat the other day, someone said, well, Hillary's got the endorsement of Black Caucus. And I was saying, do you realize that on the streets, the main black people, the voters you want, see the Black Caucus as nothing but sellout? And that's not an insult. That is the truth. The projection they have put forth. Because every time we have an issue, every time we get the cop shit things now, but I've been doing this fighting cops thing for a long time. I've been in jail so many times over Yusef Hawkins and Eleanor Bumpers. Look it up, kids. This is nothing new to me. And when I turned on the TV after they let us go, it's always the black caucus. You blacks need to calm down. Who cares if the cop shot an old woman?
Exactly.
And we're looking, what?
It's always, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's always this black intelligentsia. It's always this, it's the political elite. And we find that across, you know, not just the black political elite, but the white political elite. Once they get in power, they close ranks, no matter how damaging it is to their own community.
And if anyone wants proof, I'm going to tell them, okay, here goes your proof. You know that organization called the NAACP?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to go back to your record, and I want you to show me, since their inception, when they were the Niagara Group, what have they ever accomplished? That's all I ask. Just find one accomplishment, except fundraisers and parties.
Man, listen.
That's it. I'm gonna let you go on that one. So,
hey, appreciate the call. Appreciate the call. And actually, I put up these stats during your call. You said something very important there, that in the heads up in the general election, Hillary Clinton against Trump, 45. The Real Clear Politics average is 45.3 against Trump's 42.8. That's the margin of error against Trump, right? That's a statistical dead heat. Against Cruz, there's a statistical dead heat between Cruz and Clinton. Marco Rubio has a lead, but it's still within the statistical dead heat. Even with Ben Carson, Clinton does not thump Ben Carson. I want to scroll down. Let's go down to Sanders. Sanders is just outside. You always give a plus. If it's a decent poll, you can always give a plus or minus 3% as a margin of error. And Sanders is outside of the margin of error with Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders in the lead. The matchup that would be troubling for Sanders would be the Rubio and Sanders. You know, probably because of age. Rubio is you know, they think he looks good. I mean, he's not bad looking, but you know, I just see everything in his eyes. But this is you know, Sanders beats Cruz. You cannot tell me that if you're thinking about the general election, that you're going to go with Hillary Clinton is more electable when the polls say the exact opposite. We're seeing the purging of the Democratic, screw the Democratic Party. We're seeing the purging of progressives from the Democratic Party, because this mindset that we see, this is the mindset of conservatives. Listen, the Democrats who are using the fear of fighting a difficult fight as an excuse against Medicare, that's a conservative trait. The Democrats who are looking at these polls and saying, despite what the Real Clear Politics average of all of these major polls throughout the summer has stated, despite the fact that it has stated that Sanders is actually better in the general election than Hillary Clinton, they say Hillary Clinton is more electable. So let's ignore this. Let's ignore the data. Let's ignore the polls and only quote the polls that are convenient for us. That is a conservative position. And so we're seeing the purging of these conservative, right-leaning progressives, Democrats, and you're left with progressives on the left, which isn't enough to win an election by ourselves, but at least we know going in what we're dealing with. At least we know on the far left and the you know, moderate left, we know that Hillary Clinton is not a progressive. We know that if she gets elected, she's going to maintain the status quo. The status quo is not necessarily a good thing unless you already have capital and you have money in the bank and you can get access to capital and you can go to the kind of college that you want to. Status quo is great if that's your life, right? Hillary Clinton is not going to shake up that status quo. Those of us who understand that, we're not going to be disappointed because we don't have great expectations of her, other than the fact that we believe that she won't take us as far right as Ted Cruz. All of these people who are putting their hopes and dreams in Hillary Clinton, they're putting these progressive dreams on Hillary Clinton, despite the fact that she's made every indication to us that she's anything but progressive. You guys are going to have a rude awakening if she manages to pull this out in a general election against Trump and Cruz. You're going to have a rude awakening when you wake up 8 years from now and realize not a damn thing has changed. Everything that you elected her to do or everything that you thought she was going to do, despite what she's saying, she did not do. Okay, I guess maybe I should table these other things because I wanted to talk about the American prisoners who were freed, call them by their names and their ages. I'm amazed at all these guys being so young and doing some great things and being in those positions. Secretary of Defense Robert Gates says Republicans don't know nothing. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Let's go through my list here. Hillary Clinton wants Rick Snyder out, but says nothing about Rahm Emanuel. We'll discuss that tomorrow because that's not changing. Hillary Clinton still has an email problem. The email problem might actually blow up in her face. And I have the Boston Police Department pulls over more black people than anyone else. We could talk about that tomorrow. More pandering to the religious right. We can talk about that tomorrow because that's not going to change. I'm going to look at the chat room and get some questions here, answer your questions. And while I wait on questions from the chat room, listen, folks, my 1-year anniversary is February 12th-ish. It's like 2 weeks away. I need about 490 subscribers to hit on YouTube to hit 5,000. I need you to help me hit 5,000. Just do that for me, and I'll be a happy man. I don't need you. You know, I do want you to become a subscriber. I mean, I do want you to become a Patreon and contribute like $5 a month, $25 a month. Somebody out there wants to donate $100,000 a month, whatever. But in the meantime, if you don't have any money to contribute, why don't you go and and suggest the video, share the video in a Facebook group, one video for every group that you would like to donate. If you want to donate $5 to the Benjamin Dixon Show, but you can't do that on a regular basis, go and share 5 videos in 5 different Facebook groups. Suggest me to 5 different people. Help me get to 5,000 by my anniversary. That's what I want. If you get me to 5,000 by my anniversary, I'll thank you. That's all I've got for you is a thank you. All right, so let's read some questions here. Somebody asked me, what do I think about about Bernie Sanders, Cornel West's support of Bernie Sanders? You know, I think it's great. I love Cornel West. I disagree with Cornel West on certain things, but I like the fact that he's consistent in his progressive ideology, and that caused him to critique President Obama, I think, a little too harshly for my taste, but that's not the question. The question is, what do I think about him supporting Bernie Sanders? I think it's great. However, I need somebody with a platform large enough to come and do what I did on my small platform on Twitter and on here on the show. And I need somebody to come and eviscerate these intelligentsia black folks who are demanding all of this from Bernie Sanders while simultaneously protecting Hillary Clinton from it. I need Cornel West to be that voice. Like, Cornel West, could you pick up your pen, your keyboard, and eviscerate this, you know, use your platform, use your intelligence, and crush these second and third tier intellectuals. Let me be fair. They're not second and third tier. I think that they let down their guard. I think he's going around and doing a lot of talking. We need him to do some writing. We really need him to do some writing. Nina Turner, if you guys tweet Nina Turner from Ohio, I want to get her on the show. I like her support of Bernie Sanders. Killer Mike, if we can get Killer Mike, hell, go for Cornel West. Let's get them on the show so we can talk about it. I'm not the black splainer. Let me make something clear. I'm not the black splainer for Bernie Sanders, but when it gets really stupid, then I'll do the job, right? All of this criticism of Bernie Sanders from the black community that has not been leveled at Hillary Clinton has become to the point of absurd. It is absurd that you are going to put Bernie Sanders through these hoops, but ask nothing of Hillary Clinton. It is utter poppycock. Poppycock. I know what it is. It's ridiculous. And so at this point, now I have to serve as the black splainer in chief for Bernie Sanders, because all of these 2-bit activists and thinkers are creating an injustice. I would rather talking about the economic paradigm. Go back through my catalog and you see I would much rather prefer talking about economic policies. But I mean, I happen to have some skin kin to them, so I guess that gives me the vantage point to be able to talk about it. But anyway, the point was, we need Cornel West to put his pen to paper and write these people underneath their seats and put them in their place. Not because all of their criticism is absolutely wrong. That's not true. Some of their criticisms are legit. However, they are disingenuous when they're not leveled against people who are worse. That's like me criticizing, I don't know, Kanye West for being kind of tubby when I've got 60 pounds on Kanye West. It's really not our, it's kind of out of order, right? It's kind of like, it's I don't even know another example. I'm running out of examples, but it's like me complaining to my son about leaving the room a mess when my daughter has left the entire house a mess, and I don't say anything to my daughter. It's just, it is a form of injustice. To be real, it is a form of injustice. Let's read one more question. That's all the questions I see. I'm just scrolling through. If there's no other questions, yeah, I have so many other things that I could go over, but it's getting late, and none of them I am as passionate about as what we've already talked about. So, folks, I'm going to call it quits here. Help me to hit 5,000 people. You can do it. You can help me do it. We're growing. We have these short videos now. Big ups to my producer, Owen, for making this happen, making this possible. Spreaker, help me to hit 6,000 on Spreaker. If you're listening on YouTube and you're a subscriber on YouTube, kind of artificially inflate my stats and go and subscribe to Spreaker as well. Subscribe to Spreaker as well. Vice versa. If you're listening on Spreaker, go over there and subscribe on YouTube. But either way it goes, help me hit 6,000 on Spreaker. Help me hit 5,000 on YouTube. Go to the progressivearmy.com. The after party is at progressivearmy.com. Let me give you the link. We'll hang out in there for a few minutes after this chat is over. Control paste. Here's the link to the hangout over on Progressive Army where we can chat. At this point, I am just wasting your time and mine. I'm out of here. We'll see you tomorrow.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Crazy mother.
If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
It's a good night for ratings. Just share with you guys. My show is so small. It's so tiny. I had like 77 people listening live. That's the highest. I think our last high was 67 people listening live. I normally have like 500 people who are downloaded, which is great, but I also like the live audience. And then over here on YouTube, we had like 77 people at our height. See some parallels. 77. We should have played that as the Powerball number. Hey, I'll holler at you